Okay, before we start, I should mention that this is late season 4, so that means that there are going to be some spoilers around here. If you do not want to know about events of season 4, now's the time for you to turn back. 3, 2, 1. He's his father. Okay, if you're still here after all that, or you don't give a shit, anyway, here's a refresher bit of backstory, which the episode likewise provides at the beginning. B5 is spearheading the attempt to tear down President Clark and his totalitarian regime, with Sheridan as the primary face of it. But Sheridan was betrayed, I'll leave some things unspoiled, and delivered into the hands of Clark's people, with mention that his father was taken into custody. Now he's locked in a cell, and so we can guess that soon will be the interrogation, the insidious questions that they're going to ask.
Do you have any allergies or illnesses I should be aware of?
He's wound up in Gitmo being run by Pfizer. Talk, or you won't get any antihistamines. To protect himself, the interrogator has a device on Sheridan that hurts him when he gets too close. No answer on whether or not there are any Quatlus on the line, though. Right from the start, though, the interrogator insists that he is not the enemy because he has no vested interest in this one way or the other.
I'm not interested in that at all. I'm here to do a job, nothing more. You are a name, a file, and a case number. That is all.
Oh yeah, nothing says I'm not evil like telling someone you're part of an uncaring, inhuman bureaucracy. Why, I'm just as human as you. Whenever my daughter completes a 547-stroke-B in triplicate, I tuck her in bed and read her excerpts from the Farming Yields report until she falls asleep. You know, like normal people. After the titles, the interrogator returns, shutting off lights that had been shining in Sheridan's face, probably to keep him from falling asleep. Sleep deprivation is a common form of torture, as anyone who's listened to my wife snoring will tell you. Let's take a sample of his questioning of Sheridan, after noting that nothing in his record indicates that he has any interest in politics before, and yet he has suddenly rebelled against his own government.
You've been under the influence of other people.
No.
No, really? I find that most remarkable.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby.
I mean, aren't we all under the influence of others? It's part of being in the world. Somebody in the office is in a bad mood. Pretty soon everybody's in a bad mood. We're all influenced by other people.
Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
You've really never been influenced by anyone else?
Are you that far removed from other people?
Well, I'm locked in a cell and can't even tell whether it's day or night, so yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. While that's going on, he eats his lunch at Sheridan. He probably hasn't been fed since he was captured, so eating in front of Sheridan while talking about how good the food is obviously another means of torture. He offers Sheridan some for lunch, but only if Sheridan accepts that, despite being told it's morning, that it's also lunchtime. Sheridan finally says that he's sure it's lunchtime somewhere so that he gets the sandwich, but price of admission is a lecture.
It does prove, though, how everything is a matter of perspective.
Especially those magic eyes. I can never see that damn sailboat.
You see what you think is daylight, and you assume it's morning. Take it away, you think it's night. Offer you a sandwich, if it's convenient, you'll think it's midday. The truth is fluid. The truth is subjective. Out there...
Well, he certainly is in politics, that's for sure.
Now you're being evasive.
It's better than being dishonest.
Really? You said it was lunchtime, even though you knew almost certainly that it was not.
He said that exact same thing at McDonald's earlier that morning because he wanted an Egg McMuffin.
You said that you've never been influenced by other people, and you and I both know that's impossible. I, however, have spoken the utter and unvarnished truth from the moment I came through that door. Now, which one of us is being dishonest?
That's impossible if you just told Sheridan that it was lunch and now are calling him a liar. You must be a liar too. Yeah, but that's what you get when you get interrogated by an insurance salesman. While Sheridan's pleased with the sandwich, he gets some more bad news.
It's a funny thing about toxins. I've always felt that if you eat a little poison every day, you get used to it.
Be sure to follow me for more life hacks and other nutritional tips.
It desensitizes you until you can swallow large amounts of it with no difficulty whatsoever. I've always thought that that was a metaphor. I could just never decide what for.
But it is, which we'll talk about since Sheridan is going to be spending a while puking his guts out. It's a metaphor for two things. First, it's a metaphor for the point that he was going on about with Sheridan, about the truth, and accepting the fluidity of it. In other words, that the truth is whatever you're told is the truth. 1984, of course, had the famous conceit of declaring that if the state says that 2 + 2 = 5, you accept that it is the truth. The more you accept that way of thinking, the more you accept whatever the authorities tell you is true, even if it contradicts what you think you know. Your thinking must be adjusted to fall into line with whatever you're told is the truth of the day. This is how he can claim throughout this to be telling Sheridan the truth, even when it is not in keeping with reality, because if the state declares that he is saying the truth, then to them it is, and reality is wrong. And that conceit parallels very nicely with the last time we saw Sheridan tortured by the Inquisitor back in Comes the Inquisitor. I believed that I was right and the world was wrong, he said. And of course, he was Jack the Ripper, an evil serial killer acting with the certitude of a truth at odds with reality. Clark's government is doing that on an interplanetary scale, but it's the same thing. And that ties in with the second thing that the metaphor is for, evil. If you can swallow a little bit regularly, you get used to it, so that you can accept more and more of it. This interrogator, after all, he's no cackling villain. He insists that this is his job. And his job is to torture people, physically and psychologically. And at the end of the day, he goes home, probably puts out his garbage, walks his dog, kisses his kids goodnight, and doesn't think for a moment that he spent the day being a villain because he swallowed so much evil that swallowing a little bit more has no effect on him. When he returns, the interrogator offers fluids and news that his father sends his regards. Sheridan's father, I mean, not the interrogator's father, you know. He said to say hi and then to kick you in the nuts, so spread your legs for me, would you? So yeah, here's some fluids, here's news that your father's alive, and then he locks him in a chair and tells him that his father will be held as long as Sheridan refuses to cooperate. They seem to have learned everything about interrogations from the Lego movie.
Hi, buddy. I'm your friendly neighborhood police officer. Would you like a glass of water?
Yeah, actually.
Too bad.
In keeping with that, the interrogator tells Sheridan that the only way out of here is to sign this confession and read it publicly to let everyone know that he was under the influence of aliens who want to overthrow the government, which is kind of like a conspiracy theory turned inside out. Sheridan refuses, so later they come in with a Drazi captive who confesses that he is part of the conspiracy to turn Sheridan against his own government. And because people will want me to have it pointed it out, yes, that's Wayne Alexander, who played the aforementioned Inquisitor in Comes the Inquisitor. Anyway, Sheridan objects and appeals to the captive's sense of pride as a people and that they are stronger than this.
You can refuse to surrender. You can refuse to be broken. You just have to say, no, I won't. One more time, then they can say, yes, you will.
True, but I gotta admit I think it's a bit easier for them to keep saying, yes, you will. You're fighting torture and they're fighting boredom. Sheridan persuades him to finally refuse to confess or cooperate, only for him to be wheeled off to room 17, where he's apparently electrocuted. Off screen, so we don't see if someone followed up that immediately with, yes, you will. He leaves Sheridan with a blaring voice repeating a mantra about the need to confess, for himself and the state, but really mostly the state. He's kind of getting a shit deal here. The interrogator returns, and we see that by this point Sheridan is only receiving nutrition intravenously in order to keep him alive. Though it's better than being rectally infused, I suppose.
That piece of paper and a few words from you are all that's standing between you and that door. Don't you see how foolish this is? I'm not keeping you here. They're not keeping you here. You're keeping you here.
I think the chair is telling a different story, Baldy. Sheridan says that even if he cooperates, they'll kill him. And the interrogator's like, Well, yeah. But not right away, and that's good too. That shows you how great the state is. It will murder you when it no longer matters to anyone and will do it purely out of spite.
If anything, they'll encourage you to travel so that more people can see you as a symbol of the preeminent truth of our time. That you cannot beat the system.
Not true. What about that dude on Press Your Luck? He beat the system. Sheridan seems tempted to give in by an image of Delenn, and maybe the delusion that he could return to her if he's freed. But soon his resolve hardens and he refuses. The interrogator says that what happens now is out of his hands, and leaves. But like a corned beef sandwich filled with toxins, you wind up seeing him again real soon. He puts his cards on the table. Sheridan is a war hero, one of the few that they had during the Earth-Minbari War. That's important. What we're learning here helps to explain why Sheridan wound up going to B5 in the first place. He's got no political motivations or ambitions. He's a good soldier and someone the Minbari don't like. With him on B5, it'd be a slap in the face to them and raise his own profile so that Clark's administration could cash in on that down the line. A symbol to be idolized, one that served the nation. Well, that's obviously a tool that any fascist government would want to exploit, right? So it caught them completely off guard that Sheridan would go native, so to speak, that he would wind up siding with the aliens rather than Earth. The reason to break him like this, then, is to salvage what they can. He's no longer someone to idolize. He's now a symbol of how even the greatest, most patriotic of citizens, if not vigilant against alien influence and seditious remarks, could fall. The interrogator says that as of this morning, though, they're prepared to go with foregoing the confession if Sheridan refuses to acquiesce. That while they'd rather not do that because there would always be doubt if they forged everything, it's better than the nothing that he's giving them. Sheridan responds with a speech about how he can still fight the system by refusing to bend to it. And for that, it's time for a free gurney ride. I guess that really is Press Your Luck.
Do you understand that this is your very last chance?
No takebacks. Sheridan refuses and is led off to room 17 while someone reads some Bible passages at him. I've got a suggestion. How about 1 John 5:19? We know that we are children of God and that the whole world is under the control of the evil one. That seems appropriate. Sheridan is left in room 17, where there's only a chair and a hooded figure waiting, but soon is forced into a chair, and the gurney he's brought in is converted into a table like the one that the last interrogator had. And the hooded figure is that Drazi, who was working with these guys all along. Mock executions is another form of torture, by the way. It's even outlawed by the Geneva Convention. But it's another way they're trying to break him down. Right before starting the whole thing all over again. It's like a really, really shitty Groundhog Day. Intersections in Real Time gets a stamp of must-see. While it's not necessary to follow the arc, it is a powerful hour of television, and Babylon 5 showcasing some of its finest drama in what is primarily a two-man story. The interrogator is doing everything to tear down Sheridan. He tries inflicting pain, he tries sleep deprivation, starvation, food poisoning, bright lights, loud noises, all to prevent Sheridan from having a bit of respite, save what he offers. He attacks Sheridan's sense of truth to give him leverage, to allow Sheridan to convince himself, like with the lunchtime bit, that what he's being told is right. He emphasizes his own place within the system so that he can show Sheridan that he's here because he's not fitting in. He's against a machine that does not tire or hunger or thirst and is resistant to poisoning because it will purge it if necessary. There have been unfair comparisons between this episode and other works, but I say unfair because these are all time-honored concepts. Some you might recognize from when I discussed the U.S. Army Field Manual in Star Trek's Chain of Command. Sheridan gets few lines, but what JMS does is show us him at his weakest, precisely so that we can see him at his strongest, because even when his body is tormented and his mind is reeling, with no certainty even what he's seeing anymore, Sheridan can still dig deep one more time and still say no. And it also makes clear the righteousness of the cause that he is fighting for. The system that the interrogator says that can't be fought, must be fought. This future for humanity is neither forward-looking nor human, and it is all the more vital that they must resist with arms as much as Sheridan is resisting with spirit. This evil that has been swallowed must be purged, however painful it might be, before it poisons us all.
All hail the Overlord! All hail the Overlord!
Thanks for the sandwich.